Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a viewer point out to me, hey, you got to quit saying that a calorie is a calorie. You know, that's not actually true. Even Jason Wittrock has proven it's not true because this guy went from eating 2,000 calories to go into a ketogenic diet of 4,000 calories and lost weight and looks bigger afterwards. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. All right, I've never heard of Jason Wittrock before this question. So I did just a little bit of research. He is apparently a ketogenic advocate, sponsored by EAS, which means he's got financial ties to a supplement company. So, got his own little YouTube channel and everything. But I looked at the guy, and one of the things that immediately stood out. Let's go back to a point I always make. When someone who has financial ties to a company selling products makes a claim that is scientifically disprovable, meaning we've got plenty of very controlled studies and metabolic wards done on this very thing that show that this guy is full of shit. And you can look at him and tell he is clearly using reasonable amounts of anabolics and body recompositioning drugs. Why in the fuck would you listen to what he says? Meaning if he's making statements that you can disprove with well-controlled research, with a dozen or more studies, why in the fuck would you listen to him when he has financial ties to companies that maybe sell products related to this? Think about that. Think about that for a minute. Jesus Christ. The fact that people fall for this bullshit. And I'm not saying the guy probably doesn't use a ketogenic diet. There are plenty of guys who get ripped on ketogenic diets. There are plenty of guys who are strong as fuck on ketogenic diets too. I'm not denying that they can't be used for that, but when people say ketogenic diets overcome calories, that is complete horseshit that has been repeatedly disproven in metabolic wards and studies where DEXA scans and metabolism and everything else are measured. All right, this has been so disproven that anyone claiming this is a bold-faced fucking liar. They are flat out a fucking liar. Not just a liar, but a fucking liar. That anyone can make such a claim these days. That's almost as bad as claiming the earth is flat. And what do I mean? Well, if the guy was on 2,000 calories and maintaining, he shouldn't have lost any weight when he went to a 4,000 calorie ketogenic diet. Now, he might have lost a little water weight initially, but if he's been on 2,000 calories a while, he's probably lost a lot of water weight. But generally speaking, there is no metabolic advantage to ketogenic diets. What do I mean when I say that? I mean carefully controlled studies have been done. I've done multiple videos on this and linked meta-analysis on this. When we have studied it in the lab, when protein is kept constant, generally speaking, which group loses more fat? If you go on the same number of calorie deficit for people who eat high carbs, low fat, or eat low carbs, high fat, who loses the most body fat? The people on the high carb diet. Or they are equal. All right, that's what happens. If there's any discrepancy in weight loss, like if one group loses more weight than the other, it's usually the ketogenic diet. But it's not fat loss, it's weight loss. Sometimes they're always equal. All right, you get some studies that show almost no difference in weight loss or fat loss. But when there's any advantage in weight loss, it always goes to the high-fat, low-carb diet. Why? Because you lose water weight, and they measure that. Note, they lost water weight. That's why they lost more weight. But there have also been studies that showed that the ketogenic diet people lost more weight, but the high-carb group lost more fat. So I would ask people, is your goal to lose fat or is your goal to lose water? Because that's usually how it works. Now, what else have they found in some of these studies? As far as muscle loss goes, that's another one in the favor of the high-carb diet. If there's any difference noted in muscle loss between the two groups, the low-carb diet usually loses more muscle. Why? Well, because contrary to popular belief, ketones are not muscle sparing the way that people think they are. Promoted, so these diets think that they are. All right? They aren't. Carbs are more protein sparing and therefore more muscle sparing than fat is. and therefore ketones are. Now, if the ketogenic diet has more protein than the high carb diet, it's usually more muscle sparing. But when protein is equalized and the only difference is the amount of carbs and fat in the diet, the higher carb diet usually, not always, but usually preserves muscle mass better. So it preserves muscle mass better, loses more body fat, if there's any difference noted at all. Some studies show they're exactly the same. But there's never studies done when they're done in a metabolic ward in carefully controlled environments. You don't see studies showing more fat loss on the ketogenic diet. You simply don't see more fat loss. It doesn't have a metabolic advantage. If there's any weight loss difference, it's always water weight. But when there is a difference in fat loss, it always goes in favor of the higher carb diet. Why? Because it's just simply better nutrient partitioning on the equal calories to run higher carbs. So why are some people so successful on low carb diets? Because for some people, low carb diets are an amazing way to control appetite. They affect diet adherence for some people on such a massive level that they seem like magic. They actually cause less fat loss on the same amount of calories. All right, slightly less fat loss, at least in many studies. They're not superior for fat loss on the same calories. They're superior for some people for actually controlling your calories. All right, some people simply eat less on ketogenic diets for a couple of reasons. Number one, ketones can blunt your appetite. So if you're eating a high-fat, low-carb diet and you go into a state of ketosis, it can make you less hungry. It can make you think about food less. So for those people, it works. Also because it cuts down food variety, you know what's usually found? People eat less calories when they eat a less varied amount of food. The more variety that's in your diet, the more likely you are to overeat. So by cutting out various foods, they get bored with their current food choices. And when you get bored of the foods that you eat, and you're still limiting yourself to only those foods, over time you tend to eat a little bit less. Boring diets people just don't eat as much on. So ketogenic diets work for that, but they don't have a metabolic advantage. They don't offer any advantage. And if you have some guy who's using this and claiming that he doubles his calories and loses weight, that guy is fucking with you. You don't have any proof of that. The studies say he's full of shit. All the meta-analysis says he's full of shit, so why would you listen to someone saying that? Now, I don't know for a fact this guy said that exact thing, but I see he promotes ketogenic diets, and I see that he looks a little bit trendy. And that comes to my other point. When I just said that higher carb diets are more muscle sparing, so how come some of these guys get so lean and look so full and striated, even running ketogenic diets? Well, I'll just say that trenbolone's a hell of a drug. How's that for an answer? When you're on something extremely anabolic and nutrient partitioning, you don't lose muscle as easily, so you don't care as much about sparing muscle mass. You have drugs to do that. You don't need your diet to do that for you. So it's just ridiculous when you see guys who are on gear, working for supplement companies, sponsored by supplement companies, promoting ideas that you can disprove. And it's just ludicrous, and it's downright insulting to people's intelligence when people still come over to fitness channels and fitness pages and actually say bullshit like calories in, calories out isn't true, or ketogenic diets have some metabolic advantage. This is 2017. This is 2017. How can you guys still say shit that we have tons of metabolic ward studies saying that you're lying? You're wrong. It's not true. Where are you guys getting this from? From Gary Taubes? You do know Gary Taubes has never actually been a researcher, right? As far as a nutrition researcher. He has no background in this field. He's a journalist. So you're going to listen to people like this telling you this stuff instead of the people who are currently in the metabolic wards doing the research on it, who are doing the DEXA scans, who are taking the measurements, who are monitoring people's metabolism. You're going to listen to these kooks or a personal trainer or someone tell you this instead of the dozens of researchers who are in the field and have the data to back what they're saying and can show you all the results, who really don't have a bias to that, what you think they're bought by the grain industry. Because I can assure you the meat and dairy industry has a whole lot of money to throw at studies too if it really wants. But the high carb diets are beating the high fat diets for fat loss in all the studies. So again, it's just ludicrous that people will use someone like this as an example, someone who's clearly enhanced, clearly has their own financial angle to grind, is an employee of supplement companies, sponsored by them, works with them. I'm sorry, they're just not credible when they make statements like that. And when they make an absurd statement like they go from 2,000 calories of high carbs to 4,000 calories of a ketogenic diet and they start losing weight and body fat with no other changes, yeah, that's fucking bullshit. I mean, that is just complete bullshit. Completely disprovable. Completely disprovable by every single study that's been done on this in the last 5 years, and there have been dozens, because there's so much money in looking at fat loss studies because people care because of the obesity epidemic and everyone trying to find the best diet. Millions of dollars are being thrown at this. It's pretty much knocked the ketogenic diet out of any sort of top spot for that. It only works because it suppresses some people's appetite very, very well, which is why people follow it and are adherents to it. But it has nothing to do with it doing anything different as far as calories in, calories out, because the studies show that that's not actually true. That calories in, calories out actually is the biggest factor, whether you're on high carbs or whether you're on a ketogenic diet. Still a massive factor. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.